Hello, my name is Kathy, and today I'll be continuing the discussion on Bach Flower Essences with pine. But before I do this, I wanted to let you know that because I have a great many videos now on many different topics, that I've decided to make several different video playlists so that it's easier to find the videos of greatest interest. So please check out my playlist page. When trying to determine which Bach flower essence to use, it's necessary to understand the characteristics and symptoms of the essence from a psychological position. This is because the Bach flower essences work with the subtle bodies of the human subtle anatomy system. For healing to take place, you need to look at the situation from this different level. So, what are the characteristics of pine? The Bach flower essence of pine is for people who suffer from feelings of guilt and have a bad conscience. Pine is used for the basic treatment of guilty feelings, moralistic compulsions and drives, self-judgment, self-rejection, enslavement to authority, and pathological perfectionism. It is used to treat all pathological conditions related to guilt. In daily life, it's used to treat unwarranted pangs of conscience and fickleness, or finickiness. The pine condition is characterized by a morally hued idealism and the tendency to place oneself in the service of a higher authority or by the fear of those stronger than oneself. When harmoniously developed, the pine type is always oriented towards high moral values and ideals that they guide their thoughts and actions accordingly. They always have the feeling that there is a higher or divine power or authority who is responsible for them. Once they realize that something is right, or if they oblige themselves to something, they cannot be made to give up through promises or threats. They would rather suffer greatly than be deterred from their obligations or be led to betray those they serve. This can mean a supreme being, an institution, a community, an idea, or an individual. Anything that seems worthy of their worship and respect. They are loyal, reliable, and incorruptible. When unfavorably developed, the inborn clear knowledge of conscious responsibility of the pine type can turn into groundless or excessive feelings of guilt. This can then mean that the pine type can lose their thoughtful self-awareness and their orientation to higher values and instead attempt to fulfill any moralistic demands that are placed on them. In fact, they will actively seek them out. Their powerful desire for perfection and proper behavior can lead to an incessant, tormenting feeling of inadequacy. As a result, they will suffer from excessive or groundless feelings of guilt, or have a bad conscience as a result of their great need for perfection. These people can never be content with their own achievements, and often believe that they have not done enough. This constant feeling of being in someone's debt is the reason that they feel guilty or sinful. These people seem to be addicted to blaming themselves, almost as if they constantly want to feel bad about themselves. As a result of this, they end up losing their ability to be happy and their capacity to make others happy. Even if by some change they do feel happy, they will eventually succeed in making themselves miserable. They also have the ability to pass their own guilt feelings on to those around them. Cultivating guilt is by no means a sign of high morals and virtues, but a pathological and pathogenic phenomenon. The Bach flower essence of pine is used to treat guilt feelings. It will help diminish a bad conscience, guilt complex, and compulsive perfectionism. This essence helps to promote self-affirmation, responsibility to ourselves, and mental independence. Pine should be used not just for current complaints, but also as a treatment for the fundamental personality. It improves our ability to enjoy our lives naturally and without guilt, and can often help treat morally related sexual problems as well. It is important to understand the root of where guilt feelings come from. Unfortunately, guilt is something that traditional religious belief systems have instilled upon the populace. Traditional religious structures are famous for instilling a perpetual feeling of guilt in people. They feel guilt when they do not pay their debts, when they do not obey a law, or when they do not fulfill an obligation. None of this would be of such great importance except that these situations are linked with painful consequences or punishments. This makes guilt a terrifying phenomena to be taken seriously and therefore avoided. The system of guilt and punishment is a very effective method for training and controlling people. It is relatively easy to make someone guilty and subject to punishment. All you need to do is make a demand that the person can't or won't fulfill. In early childhood, we acquire our first painful familiarity with this system. In being punished, we learned that there are limits and that we may not exceed, and demands that we must fulfill. And so, we live in constant fear of being punished, which is always linked with our alleged guilt and becomes an integral part of our thoughts and feelings. These ugly, negative feelings are always active when we notice that we cannot be what everyone expects us to be. The name for this emotion is guilt. Normally, these feelings are supposed to give us the impression that a higher moral order, the conscience, is making us feel guilty. The truth of the matter is that there are no higher morals involved, only the simple and totally natural fear of punishment. If there were no punishment, no one would have a guilty conscience. In order to survive, we must be well brought up, follow the rules, and honor all the prohibitions that our overpowering surroundings impose on us. If we cannot meet these demands and expectations despite our best intentions, or because they go against our grains or demand a great amount of self-deception than we want to engage in, we develop feelings of guilt as an expression of our fear of punishment, which becomes stronger and more sensitive. We are, and the most painful past punishments have been. Traditional organized religious institutions have taken this system of guilt, punishment, and fear to extremes and demand from us that we dedicate our lives to renunciation and self-denial, and to accept a dogma that runs counter to our natural sensibilities and ignores our inborn needs to pursue and experience happiness, self-realization, and mental freedom. The strong belief in an orthodox religious institution cannot help but feel that they are a continual failure and therefore eternally guilty. They experience a guilt conscience when things are going well, and they are always ready to deny themselves happiness, or don't even expect it in the first place. They also suffer from the constant fear of an all-knowing God who allegedly and mercilessly punishes them for disregarding the rules of the religion in question. It is important for someone in the grips of an orthodox religious institution to understand the dynamic of this guilt and punishment aspect if they ever want to be free of the feelings of constant guilt. Accepting these simple and seemingly obvious insights is extremely important for the Pine type. Otherwise, they cannot free themselves from the vicious, life-negating misery-induced cycle of guilt, punishment, and self-denial and morality. The Pine type needs to understand that their alleged sins and transgressions are themselves integral components of life. In attempting to deny them, and in striving for excessive perfection, or in trying to adjust their behaviors to a morally imposed on them by others, they are ultimately fighting against themselves and against life itself. Everything positive in our lives, happiness, love, health, beauty, comes about when we follow our inner voice. We must keep in mind that everything in this life, joy included, has many aspects, and that the higher facets are also the most precious. Some common combinations of pine with other Bach flower essences are as follows. Combined with centaury, it helps with selflessness due to guilt feelings. Combined with serrato, it helps with insecurity due to fear of bad conscience. Combined with crabapple, it helps with moralistic compulsion for cleanliness. Combined with mimulus, it helps with fear of guilt. Combined with oak, it helps with unyielding perfectionism. Combined with red chestnut, it helps with worries caused by a bad conscience. Combined with rockwater, it helps with compulsive perfectionism. Combined with Star of Bethlehem, it helps with unprocessed guilt related to trauma. Combined with walnut, it helps with weakness in defense against accusations. Combined with white chestnut, it helps with compulsive thoughts with overtones of guilt. I have a great many videos now on many different topics, and so I've decided to make several different video playlists so that it's easier to find the videos of greatest interest. So please check out my playlist page. Well, that's it for now. To stay up to date with my latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this free YouTube channel by clicking the red subscribe button right below this video. Take care.